We are here with
Hello, everybody.
we're
Hello,
here with
hello.
Patricia and Bharati once again, and today we have a special guest, Patricia. Bharati is the one who met Patricia before I did. I met her today, and Patricia is a very special spiritual guide to Earth. She have already written more than 14 books, which some of them she channeled. And if you guys want, we can talk about it on this live stream. And she also has a course going on and a YouTube channel that we're going to leave the link in the descriptions. And today we invited her because she has a very beautiful energy, and like just being here, we would be sharing a lot of energy, but also she will be sharing it as a lot of knowledge, wisdom that can help us, each of us, on the individual process that we are all in, and maybe collectively as well. So welcome, Patricia, and thank you,
Thank
Bharati,
you.
for inviting Patricia.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Thank you for finding me, and I'm delighted to be together with you in the middle of you.
Super. Yeah, that's
Yes.
nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. Yeah, Patricia, I saw you in another video and I felt like, wow, you are somebody who's not afraid to talk about truth.
Mm.
Because a lot of spiritual people I know, especially here in Germany and Europe where I live, there are a lot of people who have fear of talking about certain subjects because it might lower the vibrations. And right now I feel, oh my gosh, we have to see certain things to heal and uplift. And ignorance will not do it. It will only do it if we really have the energy. And you just said something just before we started the live stream similar to that. And so this is also your work, transforming and healing, but also pointing the finger and things. So do you like to share something about that? What is exactly your work and how you feel right now in this time and how you feel about talking about things that other people have fear of?
Okay, I'll try to remember all the questions. First of all, I'm all about, like you said, you noticed that I'm not afraid to talk about things. I'm not afraid to talk about anything, and I think that in this political correctness imposed society that we're now in, which is a precursor to complete absolute tyranny, and that is, political correctness. You can't say that. Self-censoring ourselves with a mandate of like a profile that the government wants to impose. We're doing ourselves a lot of harm, and we are becoming so afraid of words that we can't even really even get to concepts. So, we've got our masks on, we've got a breakdown in communication. We're not supposed to talk. We're not supposed to breathe even. And we certainly aren't supposed to gather and talk about what is going on this planet. So we have this beautiful vehicle called the internet, and we're doing more and more light workers and more spiritual people are getting together and talking about the reality of our situation, our
Right.
ongoing shifting situation. And my attitude and my approach to everything, and it's always been this way in my life, is there's nothing I can't look at, because there's nothing that's so horrific that I can't talk about it and look at it. And especially as a spiritual, let's say, guide or leader on the planet, I need to know about it. I need to be able to help people look at it. And sorry, the light is going off.
Don't
No
it's
problem.
worry.
it's because there are clouds outside. And so my work is about talking boldly about everything
Mhm.
and reminding people that when you are afraid to look at something, you vibrate to the essence of that thing, because your fear is a very low vibration. And usually the reason why that exists is to make you afraid. So if you're responding in fear, you're doing exactly what that dark thing wants you to do. So how about changing the tape and looking at that dark thing that wants to make you full of fear and obedience, and saying, come on in, baby, let me look at you. Okay, what is this
Mhm.
about now? Uh-huh, uh-huh. I can send
Mhm.
light into this thing with my fearlessness
Mhm.
and my
Wow.
power and my beauty and
Yes.
my strength. And that's my message for everyone. Whether or not you're well along your path of spiritual awakening or not doesn't matter. The important thing here is right now, the human race is being forced into obedient servitude, and fear is the trigger to make that happen. So we say no.
Right.
Mhm.
So what do you know about the agenda behind that, Patricia?
About what?
The agendas behind everything that is happening right now.
That's kind of a big question.
I know. So I
Yes.
just think I leave it open for you to choose one of the spices in that big soup.
I think before we enter to these topics, I wanted to share some things that had
Sure.
happened like synchronistically this week.
Okay.
And there was this person who was talking about how there's no, like Patricia said, like hearing her now, like it's very similar to what this person was talking about, how there's no good and bad, and actually we're all evolving in this good and bad cycle, and like it's all part of each one's growth. And he was talking about how in World War II, like the one of the worst events that happened on Earth was actually something planned by higher beings to help us evolve faster. Like we had a deadline to evolve to a certain level of consciousness, and we would take 200 years to get there. But then they allowed us to speed up this process, and World War II, the worst event on human history that we know now, what wasn't something exactly bad. And as seeing now, and I think hearing from what are the things that are happening now, I think we somehow I it's not that I'm sure about it, but I feel like maybe we are in a similar process, in a similar acceleration process of expanding consciousness. Because I since I was born, I've never seen the earth change so fast in such a small period of time. So, and now I would love to hear your experiences and your knowledge, and what you know about the things that are going on, and what is your perspective about it as well. Like when you see these things fearlessly, what do you see, and how do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I love your perspective. There is no good and bad, but what there is extreme polarity. And the polarity, instead of being good and bad, is really fear and love. Okay. So when we understand that, let's say the side that wants to control the planet, when you talked about Bharati, you talked about the agenda, for whatever their reasons are, and we can get into that as deeply as you want, because I have been through the rabbit hole. But love is, oh, I just saw a message, beautiful message there. Love is the other side of fear. So we need to really understand that, really drive that home to people. It's like, it's not currently we have this flat understanding in many people. It's good or bad. It's black or white. It's evil. And oh, I can't say that word. That's bad. Oh, this word is bad today. Oh, that offends me. That's politically incorrect. What was the word? Can't say it. And people have lost a sense or desire to hear the meaning of what you're saying, to feel the intention behind what you're saying. It's just like, that word offends me. Oh, that's not politically correct. And on all of my social media, it says politically incorrect and proud of it.
So super, I like it.
So I don't accept that. That paradigm that where everything is incorrect and everybody has to be afraid of everything. And the only thing that what Danilo said is so true. There are triggers to accelerate human evolution, and this is show and tell time here, people. This is it.
Yes,
we're it's forward march from here on in. So and in the work that I do for the Sirian High Council, in my books, they spoke very, very, very much about how we would pass into the fourth dimension and then start moving on to the higher dimensions once we cleared the fourth. Well, guess what? We're in the fourth dimension now. People say, well, what do you mean? I mean, everything looks the same. No, it doesn't. open your eyes. It doesn't look the same at all. And the subtlety, the nuance of dimensional thinking is not that, it gets lighter and suddenly you can see through books and you can see things become transparent. That's a very superficial understanding of a higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
This fourth dimension is about us accelerating to a state of consciousness where we understand a much vaster universe.
Yes, I like
beyond the spectrum of limited three-dimensional structural thinking. We now are talking about multidimensional reality and parallel universes and portholes and you name it, right? And so here we are. We're in the meantime, we're dealing with this very difficult time because the controllers that are on this planet don't want, the ones that want fear, don't want love. They don't resonate to love. They don't understand it. They don't feel it. And of course, a lot of people have different opinions about who they are and what that is. But in the end, when you see the perpetration of what looks like evil is really the perpetration of fear, and that's what they want. And they're doing a pretty good job of keeping people in it.
Yeah,
However,
that is amazing for me, Patricia. I mean, since the beginning, I was seeing certain things. I'm sure you too. I think many people saw through the matrix, and I was like, why are you not seeing it? I mean, what world are you in? I couldn't believe it. And so I loved something you said before we started the live stream, and that is that it's so important that we don't play that game of separation, also that we include everybody also in this awakening process who because I know a lot of people who shout on people or be upset or be also triggered, and kind of calling them sleeping sheep and stuff. Yes, I mean, it doesn't help, I mean,
it doesn't help at all.
It doesn't help at all, right? I mean, that is not really supportive.
And it's not love. And, spiritual posturing and spiritual superiority isn't getting us anywhere at all. Right. And there's a lot of that going on right now. Right. And so, and you said something before we got started about how people are waking up at different levels, and some people are waking up really fast. And it's like a Kundalini rising, a forced Kundalini rising in a way.
Forced Kundalini rising.
Right? Because, I mean, all my life has been dedicated to spirit. And my first book, Sirian Revelations book, was called The Cosmos of Soul, a wake-up call for humanity. And that was 23 years ago, right? So I've been at this a long time. And this moment where we no longer, it feels like, okay, that's it. The party's on. There's no more thinking maybe we can, we're here. It's dark and light in this crescendo of experience, and people are either in fear or love.
Right.
And so what I say to people who are still afraid is just remember that resonating and reacting to what's being given to you, what's being served on your plate by people that want you to be controllable, is reacting to it in fear, is bringing it closer to you. And you have to ask yourself, is that what you're trying? Is that what you intend to do? To resonate to the lower vibration of it? Because that's your choice to make.
Right. And I also feel very strongly that everybody who is making a point and saying how they feel about it and how they believe, and to take, how do you say, to take a voice, it's helping to, it's not helping to not say anything. It's not helping to just think your part about playing along and being afraid to speak up. That's another thing that is also serving the fear. I think, I think, I had an experience today. There was a Facebook group in India, and I lived long years in India, and I still have a rented house in India because normally I live there a few months in a year. And there was a group today where somebody posted, oh, we couldn't leave our house for 3 months. And we are so lucky that at least we can leave now with a mask. And we are so afraid. And oh, stay healthy. Everybody stay healthy. And I was just like, oh, please do me the favor. I sent it some links and yeah, just research also different view. And I got a shitstorm. I got so attacked. I got so attacked. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was just like, Shanti, guys, Shanti, it's okay. You know,
And how did you react to it?
First, I wanted to shoot back, and then I breathed very deeply. And then I said, Om Shanti, hey guys, don't shoot the messenger. Just please check out the links. Please, I don't want to do harm. Then the next person wrote, oh, you're very bad conspiracy theorist. And then I wrote, here are some facts. So why are you being so aggressive? Just please research the facts. But that is interesting that many people don't even research the facts. They're putting it in a box of conspiracy theory and don't even look into it. So that is amazing.
Well, they're completely controlled. I mean, anyone who believes that, first of all, the myth that the masks even work, CDC has said they don't work.
Right.
They've actually said they don't work. So,
right.
You know, to hate me because I'm not wearing something that the CDC that is telling you when to go to the bathroom. They've said they don't really work, but they could, but they don't, but they might, but probably not, unless, and then, but if you're separated 6 feet, 10 feet, 2 years, 2 yards, you know, this arbitrary nonsense. And, you know, for people, I mean, I had somebody tell me that because I refused to wear a mask, that meant that I wanted her to die.
Oh my gosh. In the shop? Did that happen in
online.
Shop?
We were having a conversation about the masks. And she said, so basically what you're saying is if you refuse to wear a mask, so what you're basically saying is you want me to die. And I said, okay, here's how this conversation is going to go. If you choose to dismiss me because my choice is to not wear a mask because I need prana to survive, I need air, and because I don't believe the story for a minute. I don't believe it. Never have. If there, you know, call me a conspiracy theorist, but by calling me a name, you're setting up a structure where I should call you a name. So, you know, I can say that you're a sheeple, and then all we accomplish is separation.
Right.
So what you need to do is understand it's my choice. My health is my choice.
Right.
And if you've got your mask on because I could be dangerous, then you're covered anyway. So what's the problem?
Right.
But you know, it's really getting very hard to talk to these people because they're in hysteria. That it's more than fear. They're in orchestrated hysteria. And the proof of it is that, you know, as soon as people get a little unafraid, bam, they hit us with something else.
Absolutely.
It's oh, bam, it's the second wave, and bam, there'll be something else after that, because people have only so long that they can stay in absolute fear, and they start to say, oh, geez. And so you know, if you can just step back and look at how it's playing out, you see these cycles, you see this orchestration. And if you can't see it and you choose to be in fear, that's your choice. And you know what I tell people also is it's not going to change my life.
Right.
If you decide, I'm not going to argue with you. So if your choice is to be in absolute abject fear, go ahead. And it's like when you take the argument out of the conversation, it's not like I'm saying I'm looking after me, you look after you. What I'm saying is go ahead. If that's your choice, go ahead. For now,
right.
Because eventually you have to come around and see this, because as it plays out, you will finally, I believe that people inherently are good. I believe inherently people desire love and are capable of it. And I believe that in the end, the light wins.
Right, right.
And so, okay, right now we're in a hysterical moment, but it will pass.
What do you think, and what you know or what do you know are the energies behind it, and what is your view in the future? How do you, I mean, I have my own ideas on that, but how long do you think we go this crazy path?
Well, the energies behind it are pretty clear. You've got the overlords of the earth. You can ask yourself, there are many theories, the reptilians, the Anunnaki, the extremely wealthy, the elite rulership, call it what you want. There is a cabal on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And this cabal is run by very wicked individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a growing satanic overprint to what they do, which brings in the abuse of the children and all kinds of nasty stuff.
Right.
And so they're behind it because, first of all, they never in a million years expected a Trump to enter the scene and disrupt their system. Right. And so they're coming out in full droves. Right. And, you know, some people also believe there's a negative ET force on the planet that's operating even above them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's a lot of darkness that wants control of this planet with the outcome, which is pretty clear.
Yes.
To take humanity into a robotized AI computer civilization.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel how long time we have to I mean, I have the feeling they're going at super speed.
Yes.
And such a speed that people cannot believe it. I mean, that's another thing, that even people who have an open mind cannot believe the level of the fastness. I mean, we see how the world changed, you know, now in the last 6 months. I mean, that's amazing.
There's a number of things at play here. First of all, they will call them the cabal.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a feedback. Do you hear it?
No.
No?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Yes, I saw a little feedback, yes. Oh, maybe it's because I have here. Wait a moment.
Somebody's saying Bharati.
Oh, yes. Okay. I think someone is calling you.
Yeah,
I think it's Martin.
Sorry, I prepared everything so well, but okay. I let you go for a moment, okay? Yes.
All right, we'll keep talking.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's good. I'm not hallucinating it. All right.
Yes, I was hearing. I wanted to ask you about the galactic prophecies, about the human growth, and I think something maybe you talked about with Bharati, and also how is your experience with channeling, and how is your contact, and what is your mission right now, like what you're working through and working on as well.
Do you always ask 100 questions in one?
Because I had all these questions and I asked all at once, but we'll go once at a time.
Okay.
What do you think about the galactic prophecies, and how the channeling part connected with this?
Okay, you say, what do you think of the galactic prophecies? And there's so much information out there. So what I can speak to is the information that I receive from the sixth dimensional beings who call themselves the Sirian High Council. All right. Mm-hmm. So their prophecies are that we are, and this has been since 23 years ago. So it's now playing out exactly as they described it. They said that the earth is going through, the sun is going through an ascension process. And they were the only ones out of all the channeled material that I've heard. I don't read other channel material, but in the volleyball of information, that the Sirian information was the only one that talked about our star going through ascension. So not just the earth, not just the planets in our solar system, but the entire solar system, our sun and all the planets are ascending. And that would be described as a star explosion in astronomy terms, or a supernova, which the astronomers say is not possible for our sun. But the councils say, oh, yes, it is. You are already in the process. The sun is changing dramatically. And this is, again, I started getting this information 23 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, they were saying your sun is not as dense as it was. When you look at the sun now, the colors are changing because it's becoming lighter. Bharati, your mouth, your cord is making all kinds of noise.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I think it's hitting your jewelry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were saying your son is going through this transformational process, just like Sirius did, because Sirius A is still in the third dimension, but Sirius B is in the sixth dimension. So they went through ascension, the beings that I communicate with. So they know a lot about it. And so they say that our sun is going through this process, and so are all the planets. And that is why it's not just the Earth that's experiencing all these transformational things. Jupiter is warming up, Venus is lighting up, they're speeding. Jupiter's red spot is changing. Saturn is losing its rings. There's a lot going on in our space. And their explanation of it is because our sun is moving out of the third and it's transgressing now into the fourth dimension. And that's why we're in the fourth dimension now and dealing with the entire, dig this, the karma of the entire history of our planet. So I'm sure that, because you've got a lot of people in India listening, this is not an unusual concept of karma. Right. But we are facing, and this exactly explains what's going on right now. The karma of us as individuals, our dark shadow, our entire karmic debt as individuals, and that has to do with the fear and love question. And then the karma of the entire civilization, all the wars, all the disease, all the destruction, and all the intelligence, all of the great works, all of the beauty, constant balancing act. So that's why we're getting it all. It's like every day there's another war, another act of insanity, because it's just like bubbling up, bringing it all to for us to deal with. So we're dealing with our own karma, and it's in our faces. Right. And we're dealing with the civilization of man, human. Please don't make it gender oriented. The civilization of humankind.
Or color.
All of it right now, all at once, every day, in your face. Bang, bang, bang. So how you are dealing with your own karma and how you're coping with it from the place of forgiveness and acceptance and love, or terror and fear and survival questions, because a lot of people do not still know that they're immortal, has everything to do with how you imprint the karma of the entire civilization. And that's what we're doing right now. The entire globe is dealing with the entire history, karmic history of humankind. And as you said, Bharati, a lot of people still don't understand it.
Yeah, most don't understand. And I think most don't understand also, beautiful comment here right now, those who control are soulless and not human. I mean, I don't know, that maybe they have a soul, but we cannot understand what kind of soul that is. And I think that is so difficult for people to see in the darkness, because they cannot imagine that kind of things they can do, and that they have parties when people die, and that they have a joy on other people's sadness. That is so crazy. And
they feed on it.
They feed on it.
They feed on it. They need. That's why they drink the blood. I mean, I don't want to know how far you want to go down this hole, but
please go.
Okay, so this information that's out about adrenochrome and how these people are drinking this blood of children, and it's because they feed on that vibration: fear, terror, horror, despair, powerlessness resonates like this, and love is up here. So they're down, they can't even perceive love. They have no reference of it, because they're resonating to, and they're drinking it. I mean, this is going on in that circle of elite, big time. and they're drinking, they're drinking the blood of children, of babies, and they're actually taking it in physically.
Yes.
Besides the question of the etheric, I've been talking about this, the etheric fear, the etheric, the adrenaline that's being put out into the ethos by
Right.
people who are terrified, afraid of everything.
Right.
And this vibration is really big on the planet right now. Whether or not they're soulless, I'm not the one to judge. What I can say is they are very, very, very dark,
Right.
and very, very, very lost. God help them when they go on to their next.
Oh, absolutely. God helps them. Or I don't know if I'm like that. I cannot say that right now even.
If we can't have compassion for the darkness, we're lost.
I know, but it's very hard.
It's very hard.
It's super hard.
It's very hard, but all I can say is God help them, because what they're going to have to face, the horror and terror they're going to have to face is beyond my understanding, just as the terror and horror they create is beyond my understanding.
And that is for me, for me personally, I don't know how, when you woke up to that, but for me, it was already many years ago, before all this happened and before even people talked about Pizzagate. And it was a very harsh awakening, because I just came surprisingly to some conclusions, and then I Googled some things up and I'm like, what? And at that time I was even with the people who woke up, only one I knew myself, only me, who had researched those things. So now at least I can talk about those things, and that is amazing already. But we have here a lot of things that are happening in the US. When I see on Twitter, when I see on Facebook, that a lot of human trafficking is exposed, even over very big companies. And even we have some pedophilia rings so big, so amazing big, exposed here in Germany. And still people shout on the people who see it on a spiritual way, or what is spiritual in that, who see it in an energetic way. As a conspiracy theorist, still even people think it's about pedophilia. They think they are all just child lovers because they're just having this sexual energy there. They don't understand.
But they don't understand that they're not just having sex with these children; they're torturing them and killing them, and in some cases eating them.
Right.
So and of course there's now the media campaign to normalize pedophilia, and it's getting very strong. And even TED Talks, TED Talks, which is, even they are sanctioning it and calling it intergenerational attraction. Is that cute?
Oh, come on, Patricia.
Yeah, I saw it on TED Talk. They're using social media, which is against Trump, against the certain, like, we can't talk about holistic anything. We can't talk about alternative healing, but they can talk about pedophiles, and they can, call it intergenerational. And you know what? There's a lot of pedophiles out there that you'd be surprised how many. So we've got, if we're going to talk about this, I just want to say this. It just completely freaks me out that there's something inherently wrong with our species, that I can't use the word we, that people in our species destroy our babies, our young. There's something inherently bizarre about that. We're the only species that destroys its youth, its young. And all other animals on the planet thrive to protect their young. Well, unless let's say this in fairness, if they've got, in a litter, if one of the babies is sick, they will abandon it because they know it won't survive. I'm sorry about the light going off and on. It's because I've got natural light from outside. And so, it's still, to be able to have any compassion for these people is the hardest thing that I can do. But if we don't,
I felt that in between, but I have to work on that again and again and
Yeah, but I
again.
mean, I'm not saying that, you know, I want to meet any of these people without wanting to
Yeah.
strangle them. But on the big picture, all I can say is God help them.
Mhm.
You know, God help them when they come to their next incarnation. Not to mention the fact that in the insanity that they're living, they're already completely suffering. I mean,
Of course.
they're already suffering.
Yes.
Wait,
Yes.
they haven't seen anything yet. And,
Yes.
you know, it's just, I don't understand it. And I'll never understand how anyone could hurt someone else, but especially children. It's like,
Mm.
but they want to destroy, you see, they want to destroy the innocence. They're after the innocence.
Mhm.
They get juice out of that
Mhm.
for some reason. And of course, the adrenaline of the terrorized children. Kind of don't know if what more we can say about that. It's just, you know, it's a very, very dark aspect.
Yeah, there's a beautiful question in for Maureen.
Yeah.
What does Sirian Council say? How we heal all of this pedophilia and sickness?
Well, the way that we heal it is exposing it. And these people do, when I say God help them, I'm not suggesting they aren't brought to justice. They need to pay for what they're doing. I believe in justice and retribution. And it's not just like we get to say, poor guy, hopefully in your neck. No,
Mhm.
You need to be put away from civilization,
Right.
not to be reprogrammed as regenerational attraction and making that normal. So what the council say is, I've asked the council this question, and the answer is, you have to reveal it all. You have to deal with the pain of revealing it all.
Right.
And then you have to stand for the children. You who are awake have to stand for the goodness of your species and the love. And that means you can't embrace and forgive and accept, take back the word forgive. You can't accept that they're shoving on you now the idea that it's okay. I mean, the LGBTQ movement is adding pedophiles to their platform. This is a horror perpetrated against children.
That is very. So, what is confusing for me, Patricia, is what are you saying to that? On one hand, we have the people who are really exposed. I see a lot of things happening, even arrests and very good things. It all comes in light. Same time, the negative agenda is still moving on. I mean,
there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah, it's not just like a few arrests and we've solved the problem. They are everywhere, these pedophiles. They are in the churches, they're in government, they're in the police departments, they're in schools. I don't understand it. There's an illness here that I can't resonate with at all. I don't understand how possibly a human being could want to harm a child.
I also don't know.
I don't know what that is all about, but all I can say, and you know, everything the council says is you're responsible for your race, for your species, and you are the most dysfunctional species on the planet.
Oh God.
The brightest, the species with the greatest potential, and also the most destructive. This is the polarity of your species, and now you're fighting to find out if the good and the love vibration wins over the dark and the fear vibration within you all. Then they're not saying like some spiritual people are saying the people with a higher vibration are going to ascend off the planet and the people without it are going to. That's so ridiculous. That's a Judeo-Christian concept, right? I mean, aren't we over that yet? You know, I want to, you know, if I say Hail Mary 7 million times, I'm going to ascend into heaven. The question here is, does the good, do we reach a state, a vibratory state as an entire species? Now, there will be people who are really, really high, and some who are really, really low, but as an entirety, do we reach an imprint, a vibrational imprint, where we are in love again with
Right.
being human?
Right.
Or do we descend into the pit of fear and depravity?
Right.
And so what we're dealing with right now with the issue of pedophilism, it's only one of many, is we're seeing so much depravity. It's just like, for me, it's depravity to touch a child.
Right.
Period. And the question is, how much do we have to keep dredging up? And Trump says he's got to clear the swamp. How long is it going to take? We're frustrated. We can't bear it. And when are these people going to be in jail? I want numbers.
Right.
I don't want to just the arbitrary, the random arrest. I want to see huge numbers of these people locked away from civilization.
What are you saying to Q? What is your, because they, for example, put a lot of amazing truth bombs out, where it's so accurate sometimes in the ways the posts are. So I think it's a lot of planning behind all that. That is not something just being like that there. And sometimes I feel there's a lot of codes I personally don't understand. But one of the things I think I understand, I don't know whether I question myself right now, is, for example, that there are already people arrested and already taken away, but it's not said yet officially, to not freak out the people and that they would not understand it. So this is so big names, what are you saying to that?
I don't think that, okay, first of all, I don't endorse Q completely. Okay, I'm intrigued, I'm interested, and a lot of the stuff resonates with me. But I'm not a follower. So I don't just buy into anything. I examine it. So a lot of what's coming out of Q resonates. As far as why we're not seeing arrests, it could also be because one of the reasons is because people would freak out. But go ahead, freak them out. You're freaking us out anyway. Freak us out.
Yeah, I also freaked out. Hey,
I want to be freaked out that way. I want to see these people behind bars.
Right.
However, I think that it might be part of a tactic to be able to entrap, if you will, other pods of these satanic pedophiles. In other words, by making it appear that they're not, these people are not already behind bars and talking. Perhaps other clans of these people are more susceptible or more vulnerable or more gullible or whatever you want to call it, less hiding, because they don't think that a lot of these people are already locked up. I don't know the answer to that. I don't believe the information that's going around that all these people are in jail or dead. I don't believe that. But I do see some celebrities that are looking pretty green around the edges.
And very different also. I see also some interesting names who their faces looking very different.
Yeah, they look, well, first of all, they look afraid. And, when I look at them energetically, I mean, okay, you look at somebody like Ellen, and, the before and after picture is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
But she's terrified of something.
Oh, yes.
And so people are saying that's because she doesn't have her adrenochrome. I don't know about that, but that kind of, these pat answers don't excite me.
Right.
I want to look deeper. It's like terror, being in a state of terror for a prolonged period of time will also make your image self-destruct too. So, the karmic justice here is that anybody who is drinking terror then becomes full of terror. It's an interesting karmic development, right?
And Patricia, I mean, I know about a few alien species, some reptiles and the greys. Do you know who is exactly behind that wanting to make us half robots? I mean, that is something.
The reason why I smile is because before we got started, you said, we can talk about pretty much anything. And look at you. You're like going for it.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy I'm finding somebody, you know, I
So
can rock and dance with.
you are rocking it. Okay, so your question was, do we know who the reptilians are?
No, my question is, you know, I know different species with different agendas, but I'm wondering, I just knew since a few weeks, months about the agenda and putting robots into us and changing us into robots. I mean, wow. Do you know which species is directly behind that and who wants to control here the full Earth? It seems to be that there's some energy behind it who says, okay, we want to be completely full under control because or could that be a human being who says, oh, okay, it's much cooler. Okay, Danilo dropped out. Or is that even a human, or is that even human beings who think it's cool to control everybody and put us in half robotic way and link us to satellites and stuff and control us? What do you think?
I am not really knowledgeable about ET agenda on the planet, other than to know that we've got quite a collection of ETs who are determined to bring down the human species. So there's all kinds of information out about how they've been using harvesting us to create hybrids. Excuse me, let me take a sip of water. And we know that there has been quite an agenda with the Greys. There I go again. I'm in shadow again. Come on, light. Thank you. And there are, you know, the mantis beings. There are all kinds of other information available about the reptilian insectoid ETs that are actually on the earth and in the below of the earth. As for the agenda, that's pretty clear. I mean, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to see that we are being shoved toward AI integration with humans.
Right.
Because first of all, they're taking away our humanity. We can't now, you know, we're not supposed to. I mean, think about it. When was it with AIDS? We stopped making love without protection, and that coldness. There's a coldness about that. No spontaneity of the intimacy of the moment. That's gone, and it really changed the sexuality in a big way. The sexual dynamic between people on this planet, because it became a. I've got to go through the whole concept here. When sex became something that meant you could die, the relationship to it became one of fear. So, yeah, I'm really hot for you, but put this on is a very sterile way of looking at a sexual encounter. Okay. Right. And then now we have and always the development of AI, the development of technology that Siri and Alexis, it's always ramping up. And now we have the masks, so we can't really speak anymore. Aries back. We can't speak to each other. We can't see each other smile. So when I go out of my haven into the community, and I see all these sad-looking people with these masks on.
That's amazing.
It's just so dehumanizing, right? And you know, I love the ones that are wearing the mask that says "I can't breathe," which is the slogan for George and Black Lives Matter. But you know, the symbolism of wearing a mask that says "I can't breathe," you got to be some kind of crazy. Okay. And you know, more and more just losing our humanity, losing humor, so that the language is completely dangerous to say anything without getting somebody on believing that you're offending them, and more pushing us to becoming robotic in our thinking, robotic in our behaviors, robotic in our interactions, to the point that, you know, it's becoming a natural progression for a lot of people to just do this. And this is the enemy right here. The cell phone. This is the control mechanism. And you know, now they're talking about the chipping. They've been talking about it for a long time, but what an excuse. What an excuse. I mean, think about it. If you're the creator of this, you got to admit that this is quite a clever plan.
Oh,
You
yeah.
create the death-defying virus, and then you, of course, are finding a vaccine in a hurry.
Sure.
And you're going to put some vaccine information on some. They're talking about this with Mr. Gates, that they have this sort of tattoo that goes right under the skin that shows your vaccine worthiness. And and the RFID chip is coming next in the vaccine. And these are all, huge steps toward integrating humans into being a robot. So I hereby declare that I am a sovereign being. It isn't going to happen to Patricia Cori. Period.
It's a period not happening to me at all.
Yeah. And I think that enough people will also stand against it. I don't think they'll be able to put that through. But that there is a force that wants to take away our humanity, and sees us as useless feeders, by the way. There's no question. The question is, what are we going to do about it?
Right. It's interesting. I had a meditation a few days ago, and I saw also like a picture that we are like animals, and we are like food, just food. And also interesting today, Adi Matthew is writing, they are shapeshifters. Today, under the shower, I had a thought, oh, maybe they're shapeshifters. So wow, now you're writing it. So I really think we all can learn so much more, and we will be more amazed step by step. It is already goes beyond my belief system since long time. I had to adjust. I needed many years to adjust even to the adrenochrome, what we talk about now publicly. I think it was 6-7 years ago when I really understood also what the left hand of God is. In India is practiced as Agori. So everybody has fear of Agori because they know they're doing the rituals with the dead bodies and stuff. And I think that nothing else that is the left hand of God, and that is a misuse of God. The Veda saying that is a misuse. The real spiritual Veda saying God even gives the energy to them. It's difficult to understand on a human level because we all have a free will, but at the end it's taken away from them. And so I would love to know about your sixth dimension. What are they talking about there? Because that is a beautiful question asking here von Harzat. Can you guys tell me if the negative beings can evolve to feel love? Because I cannot imagine that after a certain level of stage, they can really. I think it's very hard for them to come back. What do you think?
No, don't convince yourself of that. And when you ask me about the sixth dimension, what are they saying? This is one of the teachings of the Sirian High Council. They say that everything that exists, every conscious being, is a spark of divine light. So we are the Godhead, the creation exploded, and sparks of life descended into the abyss. Okay? Why? Because it gave creation something to do. So as sparks of light, we descended into this dark, dark abyss and spent our time now climbing back up the spiral of light to return to source. So even the darkest ones, the darkest evil, darkest ones, by nature of that idea, must be sparks of light that have gone and glued themselves to the darkness. Because if you think about it, it makes sense that some people are attracted. I mean, there's the satanic mindset. There are, the lower chakra people that just can't get out of greed and sex and whatever, violence. And, they just keep, they're just stuck down in that muck of a vibrational field. But that the nature of existing is that eventually they will start to climb that spiral. So my answer to Harsath is, of course, if it is in fact a true concept that we are sparks of divine light, that all creation is that, then surely eventually they will find their way out of their horror. And it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be a really, because, you know, I think you can go deeper and deeper and deeper before you come back up.
Absolutely.
But that I can't believe that evil exists independent of creation. I believe that it exists to give us, well, think about it. Think about Adam and Eve paradigm, because it's a beautiful paradigm, nothing more than that, in my opinion. Without the apple, they were in the Garden of Eden. They were perfect. They were beautiful. They were one with the guru. Okay. But until the apple became an issue, they had absolutely nothing to do. There was no purpose to their existence at all. Right? Just to sit there and not do anything and ever defies the nature of creation, which is, what is the purpose of it? There has to be a perfect purpose to creation. So my understanding is the purpose is to go all the way into the polar extreme, taste it, understand it, and then choose love, choose light, choose to, until finally you bring back to source all that learning, all that experience, which enhances the creation, God force, whatever you understand it to be, even more.
Right.
So my answer to that question is, you betcha. Eventually, all souls, even the darkest ones, will find their way out back into the light.
I want to say, Patricia, I even think I know some people who did very wrong things. I don't have a proof, but I think so. That I know certain things certain people who even know very much things, and it's true. When I was sitting with them, I felt very much pain in their hearts, and I felt their deep depression, and I felt I even now I still feel like, oh my gosh, I hope they're choosing the right side and they're gonna make it. So it's true, but to see that, you know, on a higher level, it's again and again. Of course, I'm also a human being. For me, again and again, also lots of anger come up and lots of also amazement how we let that happen. As you said before, Patricia, you said, how can we let that happen and what kind of sickness is that? So I want to say something to that sickness, and then I want to ask something about that beautiful question from Tara.
And I want to answer your comment also.
Okay, beautiful.
If we don't stop this, if we allow, we turn our heads, we don't look, we don't want to believe it, it's a conspiracy theory, nothing more. We are the people that will not denounce it, who will not speak out about it, who will not help stop it, are part of it.
Right.
They're part of it. They may not want to own up to that, but if you are not willing to look at it, and you're willing to call me or anyone else a conspiracy theorist and a moron because I'm talking about things that don't exist, then you are part of my problem on planet Earth, because our problem, because you are not willing to help heal it. So guess what? You're part of it.
Right.
And until we wake up and say, we will have no more of this ever again, it's not going to stop, and we are not going to be free of it karmically.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. See, I heard about that from my teacher, but the question goes to you, Patricia. Can you say something about the 100,000 plus people's incarnation? I mean, there's a saying of 100,000 light workers who will come and lift the earth, lift the energy. Did you hear about that too in your council?
Yes, it's also in my books. The 100,000 are here and they are working.
Oh, wow.
They're not going to come. They're here. They're part of the evolutionary process going on.
Okay.
And some people perceive this as 100,000 light beings coming out of the sky and landing on the earth. But rather, these are souls incarnated now who are working on every level to combat this evil and to help lift humanity into the light of knowledge and love.
Right. Patricia, a last question from mine, then maybe also a last question from Danilo, and then I can talk hours with you. Let's do that again, please, if you want.
Sure. I would love it.
That's beautiful.
Yes, I feel the same way about you. We can talk. Oh, Danilo doesn't say much, but his presence is very powerful. Love energy.
Yes,
wonderful.
it is. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
I have the question for you. I hear a lot of people having depression right now who forcibly wake up. I mean, you called it like a forced Kundalini awakening, and I think we had a lot of time to adjust. I mean, I know my times of being, crazy about the life, feeling crazy about the world, feeling depressed, feeling hopeless. And I went through that phases over many years and adjusted to it. And I'm sure you know that too. In the path of waking up, you have just up and downs. But now some people waking up in a kind of speed. Wow. What other souls did in 20, 30 years, some souls do in 2 weeks now. And I hear a lot of people being really depressed and crying. I just heard yesterday from a woman who was sitting in a barn, like in a train, and she saw the people with the mask, and she just cried, and she could not stop crying, and she felt so helpless, and she was shaking. And I hear a lot of things like that. You have maybe some suggestion for those souls who like really fastly waking up right now, how they can handle that situation, how they can become mentally stable when you look in this darkness, to not vibrating on this energy and state of fear they want us to be at?
Well, for starters, we need to be observers of the reality. And instead of being reactionaries, we have to be observers. So when you are observing these people, you need to call upon your higher self to say, okay, wait a minute, what am I looking at here? Instead of, oh my God, look at this. Oh, it's so terrible. You're part of it. You're vibrating to it. Okay. And possibly you're even wearing a mask too. So the question is, take off your mask, first of all, and declare that you're a sovereign being, and you refuse to buy the bullshit.
Yes.
Number one. Okay. And declare that out loud. I am a sovereign being. I am the master of my life.
Right.
And if these people choose to be in fear, I cannot allow this to destroy my life.
Right.
This too will pass.
Right.
And then there'll be another thing to be terrified of, and another, and another. And we give more rights away, and more and more. And so as long as you're living and breathing, declare that you refuse to bow down to the system that is evoking fear and terror in all these people. And then there's the question of, for God's sakes, if it's your time to go, baby, you're going to die anyway. It was preordained, because when you came into this lifetime as a spark of light, you decided when you were going to be born, you decided where, you decided who your parents were going to be, and you decided when you were leaving. Right? You decided it. And then in this tube called life, you have all kinds of possibilities for creating things within that reality. But you've already made up your mind. You already know at the soul level when you're going. So if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. So the big question here is, do you understand that you are an immortal being or not?
Right.
That is the absolute quintessential question. It is the existential question that people need to get to.
Right.
Okay? Because people are in this terror because they're afraid of their mortality.
Right.
And there needs to be a lot of education right now and discussion about immortality, because we're only passing through here for 70, 80 years.
Absolutely.
So are you going to live those? Are you going to live those years terrified of life? What's the point? Boy, talk about wasting your time.
Right.
Aren't we more intelligent than that?
Right.
Than to spend the whole time terrified of life? Here's a better idea. Go for the gusto. Live life to the hill to make every moment important. And if it's time to go, a sayonara.
Yes.
And that requires an incredible understanding of the immortality of the soul, which is
Right.
what I'm all about. And by the way, because there are people who remember past lives, there's a lot of that happening right now. But I've also had the great fortune of dying twice and coming back
In this life?
in this life. 2 near-death
Okay, we have
experiences.
another interview date together.
Yeah, I would love to. I'll share that with you. But when you, and I'll close with this. When you have died and come back, and lots of people have, and they come back speaking different languages and all kinds of weirdness, and you see what's on the other side, you don't want to come back.
Right.
You talk to people that have had these experiences, they don't want to come back. There's
Yes.
something so extraordinary to go forward to. So if you are really terrified about what's going on right now, read some accounts of people who have had near-death experiences telling you, I only came back because they told me I had to come back for my daughter or my mother or whatever. And I can personally tell you, you don't die. You don't die, baby.
Yes,
It's just
yes,
a
yes.
passage and
So,
on to up to another exciting adventure.
so empowering talk, Patricia.
Yes.
Wow. And we said we wouldn't go over 40 minutes, and look at us.
Yes. I have one last question. Is that okay?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes. Like when you were talking about observing, I see how observing is very important, but I always talk about how proactively observing is more important than just observing, is to understand,
Yes.
is to interpret, to choose how you're going to interpret the situation. Because if you see something, you have to come through your interpretation to become something, right? Inside, at least inside you. And a lot of times when I see myself having fear, instead of seeing what makes me fear, I ask myself why I have fear. Like what is my preconception that is making me fear? And I wanted to hear about you, like when you see this fear, or these emotions coming through inside you, when you observe that, how do you take action? Like what are the things that you do? For example, for death, you could reshape how you view death in that way, but like I believe there are many things that might trigger fear, or maybe not, but if there are, how do you usually deal with that? Like, what is your process of reprogramming yourself and seeing things from a different light?
Okay. Well, for example, when I see a group of people wearing masks, I want to laugh. My first reaction is laughter, because humor is what guides my life. And I laugh, and then I realize that, that's not very
Polite.
compassionate. It's not compassionate. It's not well received either, but it's not compassionate, because their fear is real. But some of it is real, and some of it is just, they're such robotic, programmed people. If if the government says, go outside with your underwear outside of your clothes tomorrow, they'll do it, right? So that's why the laughter comes. And I see people driving in a car, mask on, plastic visor, gloves on the steering wheel, plastic gloves, and the car windows rolled up tight. And here is, I live on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and it has been declared the second best air in the world, air quality. All right. So here's this gorgeous ions from the ocean pouring over the island. And this person is so locked in their ignorance. It's not just fear, it's ignorance, because that's what they've been told to do, that they're cutting off everything that would heal them if they did get an infection. Negative ions from the ocean, it doesn't get any better than that. This makes me laugh. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, there has to be a certain amount of scrutiny when you encounter things that you see that don't resonate with you, or that evoke fear in you, or anger, because it evokes anger in me too. And what am I going to do about it? Instead of having the knee-jerk reaction to say, listen, you morons, take off your freaking mask and get a life. This is what I mean about being objective enough to say, okay, this is their paradigm. So in order to allow each other to have our positions. I need to conduct myself in a certain way, but it's not going to be a reaction, like, I'm not going to get depressed over it. I am not going to scream and offend anybody, but I, consciously am thinking, how am I here? And, that's really important. It's like, if you choose to be, this is how I feel about life. If the other person chooses to be in anger or fear or depression or whatever, I feel there's a choice there. I feel that we're always making these choices. And a lot of it is because people are programmed, but they choose to follow the program. I have no television. It's 20 years. I have no television. I don't watch news. I select what I glean from searching it out on the internet. All right. And, while everybody else is sitting around watching, bad news on TV, I'm walking down the road or on the beach, or I'm communing with nature, whatever my choices are that nourish my spirit and my mind. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I am definitely on a rant.
Oh, yes, that definitely answers.
But my point is to people is, take your knowledge, take your power back, unplug from whatever is creating that fear in you. The fear isn't here. Let me say this. It's not really the fear of the virus. This is not people. I mean, on this island, we don't have any virus. Okay. It's the fear. What people are afraid of now is the fear that they're going to lose their liberty forever, that we're going to be wearing masks forever, that life is over as we know it, that we're going into a tyranny, global tyranny, and all of this. This is what's causing the real depression.
Right.
And, the best way to cope with it is to say, notice the body posture. I am a sovereign being. Period. And, stop even the TV and the news and the buzz in the community. It's like, if anybody hits me with, well, don't you realize, the virus could kill you? My mantra is, I am a sovereign being, and I can't allow your fear to enter into my aura. It's just not going to happen. Just like I'm not going to lay anything on you, although I'm willing to share with you my understanding, but don't bring your fear into my reality, because I don't resonate to that. Right. And just stand in that all the time. Stand in the light, be a lighthouse, stand in that truth as you understand it, without being in a position to fight, because the fight or flight mechanism is separation. Right. But to be depressed, right now is, I don't understand depression. I've never experienced it ever. Never. So I don't understand it. And that doesn't mean I'm judging people who have it. I have never had it. So how can I speak about it? But I know this. You have to want to be happy. You have to really want it. You have to strive for it. And it's all a matter of choices. What you believe, what you listen to, what you share, who you allow to bring their caca poo-poo into your life. And we're all sovereign beings, and we're responsible for our own happiness.
Yes, that is very true. Yeah, I definitely feel how when they're in a situation like you talked about, there's the muck. The first thing that has to happen is that you want to get better, or you want to change, instead of judging constantly judging the situation, is to change the thought of, okay, this is happening because of this, to the thought of, I want this. You basically, because you cannot be vibrating two things at the same time. So if you're vibrating about the problems, you're not vibrating about, the happiness. And I think that's exactly the most difficult part, actually, for those who are stuck, is to want something different from what he is experiencing.
Exactly.
Deep inside, he talks about, okay, I wish my life was better because of this, because of that, but really wish, and really believe he can have that. So yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, you see people who are quadriplegic, who, climb Mount Olympus. I mean, not Mount Olympus. Mount.
Everest?
Oh my God! Thank you. You see people who do extraordinary superhuman things that are incredibly handicapped or limited and achieve greatness. And you see other people who say, I can't get anything I want and life sucks and I'm so depressed, who have every gift imaginable. So, you know, that speaks of how each individual on this planet is a sovereign being and has not only a right, but also a responsibility to make their life work no matter what surrounds them in the outer world. How are you going to choose to respond to the impulses of the outer world? And for one, you know, people's realities are being disrupted. You know, it's a comfort zone. They weren't really happy in it, but they liked it. It was at least safe, is in their perception of safe. And now they're being torn out of their comfort zone, and it hurts. It's scary. And my closing mantra to people is, that's when you achieve greatness, when you're out of your comfort zone,
Right.
when you face life, when you face yourself, your fear.
Right.
That's where the real experience of living is. So do something with it.
Perfect. Patricia, it's a pleasure to meet you.
All mine.
Online, I really think we should meet sometime offline too. And
Great.
I really love to hear your near-death experience, because I'm actually practicing astral projections and teaching that since many years. So that will be amazing for the people to hear.
Let's plan it.
Yeah, let's plan it.
It's quite distinct.
Perfect. And so thank you for being here. And yeah, thank you for sharing all the love for the world. And I want to say to everybody who listens to this, thank you for being with us. And share that to your friends if you want. If you have questions for Patricia, we will send also under the YouTube video, we will put her contact information and what she's doing. And so we will hear us soon. Thank you and take care, and let your light be bright.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you. It's been great to be with you. It really feels good energy. And so I'm more than happy to get back together. And thank you, Bharati, for sticking with me, because with my two computers crashing, it was a little hard to get organized.
But thank you too. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Patricia, for amazing energy.
Thank you, Danilo. Love you. Take care, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.